our Astah SysML is being developed by Agile method. So I will be very glad to hear your feedback, requests, and advice. So I have attached a mail address in the chat part. I really hope that you can mail us. Scott, can you hear what I said clearly?
Yes, I could hear that fine, Yi. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. Okay. So let's start our journey. And okay. At first, I want to show you Astah SysML environment. This is Astah SysML editor. You can see those diagrams in diagram menu. Now I think at first we can do requirement engineering. So you can see requirement diagram is here. If I click it, okay. This is requirement diagram editor. At first, I think we can create some requirements. Let's suppose that we are designing a SUV system. So the first requirement will be acceleration. You can see I just input name on diagram. If you want to modify name, you can double click the requirement and input some new words. Okay, I can do undo operation. And now I want to input the ID for acceleration. So I just double click diagram and input, for example, 001 here. Okay, you can see ID is here. And if you want to modify some other properties, you can do it by property view too. So you can see here is the property view and the text is here. If I write acceleration, for example, acceleration description, here you can see, okay, text is here. Now I want to create the second requirement. Instead of create some elements by toolbar, you can do double click on the diagram editor to create some new elements. So I will double click the diagram editor. Okay, you can see another requirement has been created. Let me rename it to power. And I will input ideas, for example, 002. Maybe you will think that the power is derived from acceleration. So I want to create a derived requirement relation. You can see here. Okay, I find it. So just click the toolbar and click power and click acceleration. Okay, we can see that the dependency is here. Now let's create another requirement here, for example, max acceleration. Instead of toolbar, I strongly suggest that the better you suggest function here. For example, if I put my mouse on the requirement, you can see here the icon. So if you click this icon, you can see, oh, those relationships which can be created from max acceleration are shown. So we can, for example, select another derived requirement here. Okay, we create it, and now I think we have finished requirement analysis. Now let's go to do some use case analysis. You can see use case diagram here, and click it. Here, use case diagram. Now, maybe there is a actor just like a driver, and he will do some use case just like drive the vehicle, and maybe he wants to park the car, and here, before drive the vehicle, he wants to start the vehicle, so do start. I think start use case should be extended from drive vehicle, so in suggest icon we can find extend. So here is a extend relation, and between the use case and driver there should be a relation, and let's create another use case, for example, accelerate. Rate the car, so I think maybe it should be included by the drive the vehicle. Okay, it's here. But how about the relationship between the accelerate use case and those requirements? Let's go back to requirement diagram, and you can see accelerate is on the model structure tree, and if I want to show it on the requirement diagram, what I should do is just do drag and drop. Okay, accelerate is here. I think this use case refine the requirement, so let's add a refine relationship between them. Cool. Now we know what's the relationship between use case and requirement. Okay, now we have find out so the requirements, and we know so the use case. Now we should begin to find out those blocks. We can create block diagram from diagram menu, and another way is that we can also create those diagrams from structure tree. So you can see that we can create a package. For example, in this package we want to manage those blocks, so we can rename the package name to blocks, and from the pop menu of the block we can create another diagram, block definition diagram. Okay, block definition diagram is here, and I want to create the first block. I think for vehicles there must be a power subsystem, and there may be another block whose name will be internal engine, and maybe some system for fuel, so there perhaps some fuel flow rate, and maybe, okay, some fuel demand from engine, so fuel demand. Okay, what will be flowed in the internal engine? I think there should be some flow properties. Oh, cool. You can see there are also suggest icon here, so you just click the icon. Okay, the fuel property is here, and maybe you can modify it from the property view of the flow property. Let's rename it to, for example, fuel supply, and maybe we can, okay, create a new object, just input it and press enter. Because there's no fuel block, also will ask you that, do you need to create a new block? Yes. Fuel here, and let's create another flow property. Just press, for example, enter, or click the suggest icon again. Let's rename the name to fuel return. Okay, I think fuel return should be out direction, so we can change the fuel direction to out. Now let's create another block whose name must be fuel flow controller. And I think it should also have two flow properties, for example, the same fuel supply and fuel return. And let's set its type to fuel 2. Okay, this one type be fuel. Oh, I made a mistake. Here should be fuel. I just do some modification on diagram. Okay, we have those blocks, and now I want to find out how power system is structured. So I want to create a internal block diagram. What I want to do is just pop menu, and you can see here is add internal block diagram. Let's do it. Okay. I think from title I can know this is the internal block diagram for power subsystem. So I think the internal engine can be a part of the power subsystem. So I just draw the internal engine block from structure tree to diagram. Okay, let's create a internal part, and let's rename the name to, for example, we can name it as a IE. Okay, this is a part. Let's create another part. I think there must be some operations between the engine and fuel tank, so we can just write the type to fuel tank. Because there is no fuel tank block, Astah asks us again that let's create fuel tank block. Okay, you can see showing structure tree, and you can see Astah can find the fuel tank block for us unstructured tree automatically. So it's here, and let's rename the name to FT. So I think the field should be flow from the fuel tank to internal engines, so I can create an item flow and add a convey, for example, a fuel to it. So let's do it from here and input fuel in dialog. Us can find the fuel for us, and okay, here, and let's click OK. Now you can see item flow has been created. Now let's go back to block definition diagram. So what's the relationship between power subsystem and internal engine? You can see the internal engine is a part of power subsystem. So I think there must be some relation between those two blocks, power subsystem block and internal engine block. So Astah, let Astah to find out those relationship for us. Just in the pop menu there is a show hidden relationship. Okay, here you can see that two relationship has been managed by our Astah. Cool. Let's click OK. You can see Astah can find out those part relationship for us automatically. The part name is IE. The part name is IE. So here on block diagram, the row name is IE. Great. Now I think we have a block diagram and we know the structure of power system. I think now we should to find out what's the constraint for this power subsystem. So let's create another parametric diagram for it. So here, add parametric diagram. Okay. And I want to create a constraint property for it. Let's add a new constraint property. So the constraint block name should be, I think it should be, for example, fuel flow constraint. Fuel flow constraint. Okay, let's ask us again that let's create a constraint block here. Okay, let's find it in the structure tree. Oh, it's here. At first, let's find out the constraints by this constraint block. So just do drag and drop, and you can see here. And let's add a constraint for it. Constraint part is here. Add a constraint here, for example, flow rate should be press here, for example, here full, and for example injector demand. Okay, we have set a constraint for this fuel flow constraint, and let's add a parameter for it, for example flow rate. Okay, now we have defined a constraint for fuel flow constraint and defined a parameter, a constraint parameter here. Now let's go back to parametric diagram. Okay, we can pop up menu here and open the parametric diagram for power subsystem. Okay, we go back. Oh, cool, you can see that what we defined in the fuel flow constraint block has been shown by Astah on its parametric diagram here, and the constraint parameter has been shown by Astah too. So let's create another parametric constraint parameter here. Let's rename it to, for example, injector demand. Oh, I think Astah should add this constraint parameter on block definition diagram for us too. Oh yes, it's here. Now let's add some value property for it. So I think we can create, for example, it should be here. So you can see we can create value property, and for example, we can add a value property for it here, and we can create some binding connector for it. So from suggest icon, we can create it, and we can create another one, for example, value. Okay, it's here. Now we have finished the requirement engineering, and we have finished analyzing block definition diagram, and we have make it clear how power subsystem is composited and what's the constraint for this power subsystem. So I think we have finished static analysis. Let's go to do some dynamic analysis. So we can, for example, use sequence diagram to, for example, find out what's the dynamic relationship between a power subsystem. Go back to it. Power subsystem and for example, we can do it as a fuel tank. So I think the power subsystem will ask fuel tank to, for example, burn some oil, and if the fuel tank say, okay, the power subsystem will ask fuel tank to do next operation. If the fuel isn't enough, there must be a test. So let's create a combined fragment here and add a condition, for example, enough fuel. We'll do this operation, and if not enough fuel, let's add another operand here. Not enough fuel. The power subsystem will ask fuel tank to burn again. Okay, now we have a sequence diagram. I think we have a dynamic model, and we have a static model, and we have some requirement diagram. Okay, this is my demonstration. If you have any question, please mail me or write your request in this community site.
Hi, Yi.
Thank you
Thanks.
for your attention.
Hi, Yi. Thanks for that demo. That was a lot, and that's really barely the tip of the iceberg for SysML. One question that did come across, and if other people have questions, please, now's a great time to ask. We don't have a whole lot of time, but we may be able to cover one or two. Can you go over what all diagrams are covered in Astah SysML? I know you've shown 3 or 4 or 5 here, but what else is included with SysML, please?
Okay. The rest should be a state machine diagram. You can create some state machine here, and a activity diagram. You can create some partition here to show the actions for some objects, and you can do some brainstorm by mind map here. You can create some mind map, and you can also create a requirement table to write those definitions for requirements on requirement diagram. For example, power request. Okay, that's all.
Okay, great. I know that almost any system can be modeled with SysML, but what is SysML used for in practice? What type of industries use SysML the most? Another question that came across, sorry.
Okay, system is a big definition. Currently, many military industries, for some famous aeroplane industries such as Boeing and Airbus, are using SysML to design their, for example, plane system and, for example, some combat system.
Okay, that's great. I think we're just about out of time, so we're going to wrap this up. This was a great demo. I also want to point out that if anybody has any further questions, please email us at sysml@astah.net, and somebody will get back to you. We'll also include that email address with a wrap-up email that we'll send out thanking everybody for attending. I'd also like to mention that we have tutorials and demonstrations and free trials of Astah SysML on our website, astah.net. So please take a few minutes, go over there, and you can download and get started doing your own system activity or your system modeling language diagrams. Thanks everybody for attending today, and Yi, thank you very much for your great demonstration.
Thank you.